um, there is nothing in her previous statement at all. Mm-mm-mm.
From what I remember about her first time, they barely talked to her. She was on the stand, I think, for like 5 minutes total or something.
The actual thing. Where is it? It goes right through, but excuse me. She regarding Karen's taillight. Kerry heard Karen asking about her taillight. Kerry observed that Karen's car, the Lexus, had damage to the right passenger taillight. What the hell? Hang on. And it says that it was snow caked around the damaged area. And that's the direct observation that she made at Jennifer McCabe's house. That's the only description she gave. I'm just going to take this call. One sec.
No problem.
Nobody else from outside the family?
No.
Okay. Who contacted you about doing that interview? How did they know to come to you at your home?
I don't remember. They may have just shown up. I don't remember.
Okay. Do you remember what time the interview was?
Maybe around dinner time, maybe around 5, 6.
Was it recorded?
I'm sorry?
Was it recorded in any way? Tape recorder running?
I don't think so.
The troopers were taking notes, obviously?
I believe so.
During your conversation with, and I'm jumping around a bit, so I apologize. During your conversation or conversations with Mr. Brennan and the DA's, members of the DA's office in preparation for your testimony, were any of those interviews recorded?
No.
Was anybody taking notes?
No.
No, none of the DAs were actually taking notes, the ADAs?
I didn't look around the table to see if anyone was taking notes, but I didn't see them taking notes.
No pads and pens on the table?
There was a lot of stuff on the table, but I didn't see anybody taking notes.
Okay. You received a phone call just before that interview started at 5:25 p.m., correct?
Around 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. Is this the night of the 29th, you mean?
This is the night of, I'm jumping back to the night of the 29th.
Yeah, I'm not following you very well.
That's okay. On the 29th,
yeah,
you were interviewed around 5:25 p.m., maybe just a little bit before that.
Yeah.
You received a phone call just before that, correct?
I do not know.
Isn't it true that Jen McCabe called you and spoke to you just before that?
I spoke to Jen McCabe the entire day.
Okay. Including just before that interview?
I don't know.
Did you tell Jen McCabe that you were about to be interviewed?
No.
Did you tell her at some point did you text her and tell her that the officers had arrived?
I don't think so.
Did she text you back and say, call me right after?
I don't know.
Okay. During the course of that interview, when the incident was still pretty fresh in your mind, you indicated that at about 5 a.m., you got a call from Karen Reed indicating that John never came home and that she was worried, correct?
Correct.
You also indicated that she was worried that John may be walking and may have gotten hit by a plow. You relayed that to the officers.
Yes.
You indicated that you met up with Karen Reed and Jennifer McCabe at Jennifer McCabe's house, and Karen was hysterical and worried that something had happened to John.
Yes.
You also indicated that once you were at 34 Fairview, once y'all had made your way over to 34 Fairview, Karen saw John and ran to him, although you and Jennifer didn't see him initially, correct?
That's correct.
You said that Karen was repeating the phrase, is he dead, over and over. Is that right?
That is correct.
You also indicated that she said that if anything happened to John, she'd kill herself, correct?
That's what she said to me.
Object.
So the objection sustained.
Did you indicate at any time, I'm sorry, let me ask a different way. Did either of the troopers indicate to you after your initial interview that if there was anything further that you could recall that would be useful, please provide it? Please give it to at that time.
I don't know.
Okay. would it refresh your recollection to look at that January 29th report?
Sure.
So the upshot of that was Tanya was telling me they're talking about the grand jury testimony, not the first trial. So she's looking for that transcript.
Thank you.
Show the second page.
There was even less information she gave in the trial.
And there, I put a little mark by paragraph 5. You can take a look at that.
Okay.
May I?
Yes.
During this interview with Trooper Dunn and Trooper DeChico, they indicated after you gave your statement that if you wish to provide anything additional, now is the time to do it.
Objection.
Sustained.
Were you informed that you were
That's
limited on time in that interview?
Available too.
Meaning,
shouldn't it?
we got to get this done. We're leaving. We're out of time.
No,
They didn't cut you off, correct?
no,
They didn't tell you that they had a limited amount of information that they wanted and then they were just going to leave, correct?
I don't remember. I don't recall.
As a matter of fact, they told you that anything you wanted to provide to them, provide it. Give them as much detail as you could, correct?
I don't recall.
You just read the last statement that these troopers indicated, correct? If there's anything further she could recall that would be useful, please provide that information.
Object.
Sustained.
Donna, may we approach?
Yes.
How do you spell DeChico? DeChico. I haven't seen any statements. I didn't think they documented any statements from any of them. Transcript. What Kerry Wright said in her testimony. What's that from? That can read. Oh, that's what I've got. That's what I've got.
May I?
Yes.
Thank you. Having looked at the
No,
report,
no. Bring it to her and show it to her again.
she's just, it's the same thing that I just showed her. Having looked at the report, does that refresh your recollection about what Trooper Dunn and DeChico told you at the end of the interview?
I don't recall. It's not refreshing. I'm not remembering it. Even reading it, I'm not remembering it.
I see. Okay, fair enough. So as you sit here, the details about what you told or what those two officers told you are not fresh in your mind, and nothing's refreshing your recollection about that.
Right.
Okay, but you do remember the basics of what I just described in that conversation with those two troopers.
I mean, they asked me what happened. I told them, but I was also in shock.
You never said during the course of
Speak
that interview
what?
that
Shot.
my client called you at 5 o'clock in the morning, just hours earlier, and said he's dead and then hung up, correct?
No, I don't believe I said it at that point. I did not remember that until a couple of days later.
I see. And in fact, when you were asked about that particular statement, when you were asked about that particular series of events, that never came to your mind.
No.
That literally the first words out of Karen Reed's mouth, according to you now, is he's dead and then hung up.
Correct.
When you heard that, you didn't take that to mean that she killed him.
No.
Of course not. She was panicked, correct?
Yes.
You did add that, one other thing that you didn't add in your initial statement to Trooper Dunn and Trooper DeChico is anything about the taillight either, correct?
Not.
Okay. And you also didn't say anything about any sort of a Google search or the praying that you talked about in the back of the patrol car, anything like that?
No.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't remember.
Oh, I have got it.
The second time you were interviewed, that was the February 1st interview. That was with Kathleen Prince and Connor Keith, correct? And you just looked at that report, at least part of that report. Is that right?
Say it again.
Connor Keith and Kathleen Prince, that was on February 1st, 3 days after your initial statement, correct?
I don't remember the date, but I remember meeting with them.
Okay. I want to make sure I get the dates down, so I'm sorry to belabor this, but. May I approach?
Yes.
Would it refresh your recollection if you were looking at the report of that interview?
It might.
Okay. First paragraph.
Thanks. Am I reading the whole thing or just the part where you dotted?
Just if it refreshes your recollection.
Oh. Oh, for the date, yes.
May I approach?
Yes.
What date was it that you met with me?
February 1st.
That second interview was conducted at 12 Country Lane, correct?
Yes.
And who again lives at 12 Country Lane?
Jennifer McCabe.
So the second time you told your memory, your story to law enforcement, you were literally sitting in Jennifer McCabe's house.
Yes.
And you had met with Jennifer McCabe before your interview, correct?
Yes. We were putting a timeline together.
So you two were actually prepping, if that's a valid term, prepping for your interview, putting a timeline together, correct?
We were putting a timeline together at the request of Mrs. O'Keefe.
And Jennifer McCabe, was helping you with the timeline, and you were helping her with the timeline.
Yes, we were putting together the events of what had happened.
So she was helping you, and you were helping her, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. So both of you were assisting in each other's memories, correct?
Yes.
I remember this, and you remember this, and okay, now I remember this, correct?
Yep.
Obviously, that would help influence your memory, going
Yes.
over the event with someone else, correct?
Yeah.
So what's on that timeline, you would agree, is not completely independent, your memory. It's a combination of your memory and Jennifer McCabe's memory. Isn't that right?
Yes.
May I have just a moment, Your Honor?
Yes.
Thank you, Your Honor. So the two of you drew out some sort of a timeline for you to follow during the course of that interview. Is that right?
For me to follow what?
During the course of that February 1st interview, as you were interviewed in Miss McCabe's house. I mean, that was the purpose of the timeline, to help you with that interview?
No, that wasn't the purpose of the timeline.
You used it for that purpose, though, obviously.
We did not. I was at Jen's house making a timeline, and the two officers showed up to interview her. I just happened to be there.
Right. And when they interviewed you, did you have that timeline in front of you? That's my question.
No, I did not.
Okay. But you had just created it along with Jennifer McCabe.
Some of it.
Okay. And then it was after that that this timeline was coordinated between the two of you, that you actually told your second story to Trooper Prince. And when I say second story, I mean the second time you were interviewed on February 1st as opposed to January 29th. Is that right?
Yes.
Did you ever become aware of text messages that Jennifer McCabe was sending to others in a group chat talking about you in that interview?
No.
You were never told or became aware that she sent text messages to a group as she listened in on your interview?
No. I don't think she could listen in. She wasn't anywhere near me.
You weren't aware that or are you aware as you sit here that she sent a text message that said she's telling them everything, all the stuff?
Sustained.
Have you ever been provided a text message or told about a text message that perhaps Jennifer McCabe was sending to a group?
No,
Listening to your suggesting that she was listening to your interview?
no,
The third time you told your story was later that night in a telephonic interview. Is that right? With Trooper Proctor?
I requested to speak to Trooper Proctor because I had remembered the very first time I spoke with Karen that morning, and I wanted to make sure it was recorded.
Okay, that wasn't my question. My question was, did you have another telephonic conversation with Trooper Proctor, yes or no?
You said that night, but it wasn't that night.
When was it?
I think it was earlier that day.
Okay. Meaning, but it was after the interview with Trooper Prince.
I don't think so.
I think it was beforehand.
I think it was beforehand.
You were still with Jennifer McCabe when that call took place, correct?
I was in her house. I was not with her. I stepped away to speak to him by myself.
In her home at 12 Country Lane.
Correct.
Who else was with you other than Jennifer McCabe in the house?
Her sister was there writing down the timeline for
Who's
us.
that?
Her sister, Denise.
Denise? So she was scribing the timeline as you and Jennifer McCabe were creating
She
it?
was writing it down as we were remembering things.
Right. And the three of you were doing this together, sort of communally.
Yes.
She would say something, then you would say something, then it would spark something that she would say, and back and forth, correct?
Yes.
How is it that Trooper Proctor got a hold of you? Did you call him or did he call you?
I think he was on the phone with Jen, and I asked to speak to him.
So Trooper Proctor got a hold of you through talking to Jen McCabe.
Well, I asked to speak to him, but yes.
Right. Was that interview recorded, to your knowledge?
I don't know.
The fourth time you met with police was February 2nd, the very next day, at about 12:08 p.m. Is that right?
I don't remember.
Do you remember signing a consent form for your phone?
Yes.
Was that the next day after this interview with Trooper Prince and Trooper?
I don't know what day it was. It was right after Karen was arraigned for the first time. Jen and I met with them and both handed our phones over willingly.
So you just answered my question. So when you met with police, whatever the date was, it was a few days later, you met with police. Yet a fourth time, you were still in the presence of Jennifer McCabe when you met with police.
Yes.
And handed your phone over, is that right?
Yes.
She handed her phone over, is that right?
Yes.
And the two of you were together when you signed your consent forms, is that right?
Yes.
The fifth time you told your story was in front of a grand jury, is that right?
I don't know.
Do you remember testifying in front of a grand jury?
I do.
Okay, let's talk about that for a second. Before you testified at that grand jury, just physically, you were brought into an anteroom where you waited to be called by ADA Adam Lally, correct?
Yes.
Who was in that anteroom with you just before you gave your testimony?
My husband and Jen and Matt McCabe.
So Jennifer McCabe was with you yet again just before you gave
Yeah.
official testimony under oath concerning this case and concerning the incident.
Correct.
Ms. Roberts, when was the last time you've spoken to Jennifer McCabe before you testified in this trial?
In this morning.
Did you discuss your testimony?
No.
No.
So you and Ms. McCabe, who became friends because
Correct.
of this incident,
Correct.
talked as recently as this morning before your testimony.
Correct.
And your testimony now is that you did not discuss anything about what you're doing here
No,
or what you're
I
going to
did
testify
not. She
to.
called to wish me good luck today.
Mm-hmm.
When did you talk to her the last time before this morning?
I don't know, maybe a couple days ago. I don't remember.
Within days of you taking the stand yesterday, correct?
Yes.
You said talk on that one. Good morning, Elizabeth. Oh.
Did you ever?
Yes.
Well, the defence is giving away their strategy.
Ms.
Fine.
Roberts, I'm going to ask you. To take a look at actually.
By what?
They're giving away their strategy. It's all going to be, it's all a giant conspiracy headed by Jen McCabe.
They're all well, they're doing a Hank Brennan. They're discrediting every witness, destroying their credibility. That's exactly what his defense strategy was with Whitey Bulger. Exactly. And it was all over him being a jailhouse snitch. That's what he focused on.
Actually, let me ask it a different way. Did you say that you did or did not recall texting with Jim McCabe during that January 29th interview with state police? Do you recall that or no?
No.
Okay.
During the interview, I didn't text anybody.
Okay. Are you saying you didn't text anybody or you don't recall?
I don't recall. I don't think I had I wouldn't be texting somebody if I was being interviewed by the state police.
Right. Okay. Would it refresh your recollection to take a look at a report of text messages?
Sure.
Mayor Gocho?
Yes.
Yes. He's so brash, isn't he? Axie.
So, Mayor, you're on.
Yes.
Take a look. There's two tabs. Take a look at the tabs and the data across the two tabs, if you don't mind.
Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I'm in a rush. So, Matt,
Yes.
take this back. Well, for information, Mr. Brennan,
Okay. Jurors, feel free to stand up and stretch if you'd like. And I forgot to tell you, anytime we're at sidebar, please feel free to stand up and stretch, okay?
That was quicker than we thought, Judge. May I
Okay.
proceed?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
Did you take a look at this document?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection that there were two text messages at around the time of your interview with those two troopers?
No.
Do you recall, as you sit here, texting Ms. McCabe that the state troopers were arriving or they're just getting there?
No.
Do you recall Ms. McCabe texting you anything back about calling me after?
No.
Okay. Did you, in fact, different question, did you, in fact, call Ms. McCabe right after the interview and talk to her?
I don't know.
Have you ever testified that at the scene, Ms. Reed was seated in the back of a patrol car along with Jennifer McCabe, and you were standing just outside the car, and there was an interaction among the three of you?
Yes.
Have you ever testified, or have you ever stated in any particular, that during that interaction, Karen asked the three of you to pray.
Yes.
Have you ever said or testified that during that interaction where you're seated, where they are seated in the back of the patrol car and Ms. Reed asked you to pray, that Ms. Reed said to Jennifer McCabe, Google hypothermia?
No,
You've never said that.
I've never said that.
You testified at the grand jury on April 26th. Is that right? April 26th, 2022?
I do not know.
Right? Does that sound right? April 26th, 2022?
I have no idea.
Late April 2022, does that sound right?
I don't know. It was 2022.
You testified under oath, correct?
Yes.
Swore the same oath that you swore here.
Yes.
Tell the whole truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, and guilty of perjury. Is that right?
Yeah.
I heard that.
Yeah, that's what I needed. Is it your testimony that you have never said that Karen told Jen to Google hypothermia, or that you don't recall saying that?
I don't recall saying that.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at portion of your grand jury testimony from that day?
It might.
May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you.
Sure. And if you can read on to page 83 as well.
Yep. I testified. I didn't hear it, but I was told that she was asked to Google it.
You testified under oath at the grand jury that at some point Karen was in back of the police cruiser, correct?
Yep.
Objection.
No, I'll allow that question.
Does that refresh your recollection as to what you told the grand jury?
Yes.
And isn't it true that at some point during the course of your testimony under oath, you said that Karen was in the back of the police cruiser?
Yes.
And then you went on to describe that Karen and Jen and I were standing outside, and she made us all start holding hands and starting to pray.
Yes.
I mean, what the she being Karen Reed, correct?
Yes.
And at this point, they had lifted John up and taken him onto the gurney, correct? That's
I don't
what you
know.
described.
I don't recall.
Okay. I'm going to do this again, just so we're clear. May I approach?
Yes.
Sure. Thank you. portion at the bottom of the page,
At the bottom?
at the bottom, last couple of paragraphs.
Okay. Yep, I say I think, so I'm not
I
positive.
have a question for you.
Okay.
Does that refresh your recollection?
Yes,
Okay, thanks. Thank you. And you testified basically that you think, at least that's what you were telling the grand jurors, that you
Yep.
think that was the point at which they lifted John up
yes,
and moved him into the ambulance, correct? Is that right?
yes,
And then you were asked a question, what, if anything, did she, Miss Reed, ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard, correct?
Objection.
Do you recall that?
I did not hear the question about Google being asked.
That's not my question. May I ask? May I inquire?
Just repeat that question.
Sure. Isn't it true that you were next asked by Mr. Lally in front of the grand jury, quote, what, if anything, did she, Miss Reed, ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard, end quote. Remember being asked that question?
No,
May I approach you? Yes. Thank you. Thank you. So we're going to look at lines 16 through 18.
okay,
May I?
Yes.
Does that refresh your recollection? That was the question that you were asked?
yes,
Okay. And in response to that question, you stated, quote, at one point she asked her to Google hypothermia and how long Google hypothermia, correct?
Mhm.
I'm sorry?
yes.
You're not happy, is she? You know, like this. She got the shits up now. She got the rag.
That was very detailed, you'll agree that that's a very detailed and specific recount of an event. You recounted where you were, back of a cruiser, or they were in the back of a cruiser, correct?
Yep.
You recorded or reported the time, it was right around the time that you thought they were lifting John up and scooped him up onto the gurney, correct?
I thought it was about that time. I wasn't sure.
Location,
I'm sorry, I didn't get that answer. You were talking over each other.
That's my mistake.
What was your answer, Ms.
I
Roberts?
thought it was about the time they lifted him up, but I wasn't sure.
You were very detailed about who was there. It was you, it was Jen, it was my client, Kerry
Yes.
Reed, correct? Is that right?
Yes,
You were so detailed that you talked about where you were standing next to the cruiser open door, correct?
yes,
What the others were doing, holding hands and praying, is that right?
yes,
And the actual words used, you were as detailed about all of that as the actual words used. She asked her to Google hypothermia and how long, and then you stopped, Google hypothermia, end quote, correct?
correct.
You will agree, at least for that purpose, you painted a very, very detailed picture in front of the grand jury, didn't you?
Yeah,
Except it's not true, is it?
I did not hear her ask that. I was told she was asked that. In the
The answer to my question, Ms. Roberts, and I'm a trick question. What you told the grand jurors was not true. You never heard her, my client, ask anyone to Google anything, did you?
I did not.
And yet, that's what you testified to under oath, under penalty of perjury, in front of the grand jury, didn't you?
I did.
And the reason you did that, the reason that you said that false statement was because someone told you to say it, correct?
Object.
Is that, I'm going to let her answer that.
Nobody told me to say it. I knew it happened at that time,
How did you
which is
know
why
it
I
happened?
said it.
How did you know it happened, Miss Roberts, if no one told you it happened?
Because we wrote a timeline. We already spoke about that.
Sarge,
Timeline that Jennifer Katie
just stop
helped you with,
getting right
that
there.
influenced your testimony
Come on.
in front of the grand jury, correct? Obviously.
I was telling what happened in the back of the cruiser.
The timeline
You can answer.
you wrote,
So when you ask a question, let her answer, okay?
timeline you wrote, with Jennifer McCabe's help, influenced your testimony to testify in front of the grand jurors to a statement that you never heard, correct?
Yes.
Up, 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 up.
You were later asked about that statement in another investigation, by another investigator or set of investigators, correct?
I don't know.
Were you interviewed by a different law
Gotta be
enforcement
evasive
agency,
and
a separate law
advice.
enforcement agency from the Massachusetts State Police at any time?
Yes.
And you were told that to lie to those agents would be a crime, correct?
Yes.
Punishable by prison, correct?
Ooh.
I was not told that.
They asked you whether or not you heard Karen Reed ever say anything to Jennifer McCabe about Googling anything, correct?
I don't know.
Isn't it true that you told them what you've just now told us, which is, I did not hear Karen Reed ask Jennifer McCabe to conduct any Google searches?
I don't recall.
Would it refresh your recollection to look at a copy of that interview and that report?
Sure.
I know where it is. Can I approach?
Yes.
I'm going to ask you to take a look at the entire document, just to familiarize yourself with it, if you don't mind. Go to the front page and don't answer anything about the document until I ask you a question, if you don't mind, please.
Sure.
Thank you. Ms. Roberts, do you recognize that as being a report of an interview that you conducted?
I've never seen this before, but
Understood. Yeah, you may never have seen it, but does it remind you that that's
Yes.
a report of a conversation you had with another law
Yes.
enforcement agency? I'm going to ask you to turn to page 7 of that report. And if you look, there's a small paragraph, about 2 paragraphs up from the bottom. I think I may have put a little blue dot by it, but I'm not sure. Please read that to yourself.
correct.
Done?
Yep.
Thank you. May I approach?
Yes.
Thank you. Roberts. Ms. Roberts, does that refresh your recollection about what you told these investigators?
Yes.
And what you told them was you, quote, did not hear Karen Reed ask Jennifer McCabe to conduct any Google
That is
search.
correct.
And you went on to say you saw McCabe on her phone.
I'll allow it.
You saw McCabe on her phone, but you did not hear Karen ask Jennifer to Google anything.
Correct.
So what you told the grand jurors was in fact
A lie.
false.
I misunderstood Mr. Lally's question.
Got it.
Nah.
Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Brennan, any questions?
Thank you. Thank you. When you spoke to the grand jury about your memory, were you trying to fool them in any way?
No.
Were you trying to,
Objection.
Watch the form of your questions.
were you trying to mislead them in any way?
Objection.
Sustain. Watch the form of your questions.
When you spoke to the grand jury, were you honest?
Yes.
When you were asked the question, what, if anything, did the defendant ask Mr. McCabe?
Was that a dig at
Did you
Lally?
begin your response by saying at one point?
You can show her her response.
That was a dig, wasn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Page 83, line 19. And I ask you to look at page 83, line 19. Just read it to yourself and the lines that follow. You done? When you were asked that question by Mr. Lally at the grand jury, did you ever say you specifically, personally heard that statement?
I'll allow that.
Did you
No,
ever
I
tell
did
the
not.
grand jury you actually heard that statement being made?
I did not.
And when you spoke to the people in that report that you looked at on page 7, did you ever tell them you specifically heard that statement being made?
No.
Were you consistent in both of those statements?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you say anything different as
No.
far as what you personally observed between those statements?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
No.
And when you were asked about what the defendant may have said to Mrs. McCabe, to Miss McCabe or Mrs. McCabe, did you generalize your answer?
Objection.
Sustained.
Did you begin your answer with at one point?
Yes.
When you chose the words at one point, what were you trying to convey to the grand jury?
I'll allow that.
I didn't know at what time it was done.
Was that a topic of conversation around the time you were brought to the grand jury?
Around the time what?
That you were brought to the grand jury to testify? This is a Google search.
Was it? I don't know.
Okay. Were you asked here in front of this jury whether or not you personally heard that statement?
Yes.
By me. Did I ask you that question?
No.
Did you personally hear that statement?
No.
After this happened, you discussed what had happened with people, didn't you?
I'm sorry, say it again.
After you found John lying in the snow, did you discuss what had happened, what you saw with other people?
Yes, of
Did
course.
anybody tell you that you couldn't discuss the trauma that you had been through?
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
Say it again.
Did anybody tell you that you couldn't discuss what you had just seen?
No. Didn't say it again. I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
After you found John that morning, did anybody, civilian or law enforcement, ever tell you you weren't allowed to discuss what you had just went through?
No.
Did anybody ever tell you that you couldn't have support of other people?
No.
I'll
Oh
allow
my
that.
God, he's
No.
going down the victim line, isn't he?
Was this a traumatic event?
Yes.
Have you spoken to it about, to a number of,
Yes.
tell us why you would want to speak to somebody about what happened that morning.
Objection.
I'm going to allow that.
I've spoken to many people, obviously, that we all grew up with. But Jen in particular, I do speak to her. I am friends with her. We went through a really traumatic experience together.
Did you ever confide in other people other than Jen McCabe about what you endured that morning?
Yes, many people,
Endured.
Why?
because it helps me get through, and it's whether John's family, friends, whoever. I've talked to a number of people about it.
You're friends with John's parents?
Parents?
John's parents, the O'Keefes.
Yes.
You still friends with them?
Yes.
Do you ever discuss what happened?
Yes.
You were asked by law enforcement if they could have your telephone?
Yes.
Was there a warrant?
Objection.
Sustained. Ask it differently.
Did you feel like you had any obligation, legal obligation, to give your phone to law enforcement?
Objection.
I'll allow it.
No, they asked for my phone. I handed it over willingly.
Did you think you had to?
No, but there was no reason not to.
When they went through your phone, do you know whether they saw all of your phone calls that were on that phone?
Objection.
Do you know that?
I don't know. They cloned my phone, so I assume they saw everything.
Objection, please.
I'm going to strike that
Any-
answer. So the answer is I don't know.
What type of information did you have on your phone when you voluntarily gave it?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
Text messages, phone calls, call logs, pictures.
You said that you stayed friendly and still are friendly with Peggy O'Keefe and John Sr.?
Yes.
Okay. At some point, at times, do you try to help them with things?
Daily.
Do you try to help them with the children?
Objection.
Sustained.
Well, you were asked about contacting the district attorney's office about replacing a Ring camera.
Yes.
Whose Ring camera was that?
It was at One Meadows where Mr. and Mrs. O'Keefe, John's parents, are now living.
What motivated you to call the district attorney's office about the Ring camera?
Because we knew the Ring might be some sort of evidence that they didn't want to take the camera that was not working down without permission.
Do you have a Ring camera?
I do.
Do you know if there's a difference between the actual physical camera and the iCloud storage that keeps the actual video on it?
I don't know the difference.
Okay. Did you ever ask to replace any hard drives or storage, or were you asked to replace the camera itself?
Just the camera.
And that was in March 7, 2023?
I don't know when.
You were asked questions about what the defendant said that morning when you were trying to help Mr. O'Keefe.
Yes.
You were asked whether you heard any comments about her, from her, about dropping John off.
Say that one more time.
You were asked whether you heard any comments about her saying she dropped him off.
In the car on the way to the hospital.
Okay.
She said it to Mrs. O'Keefe.
When you were outside trying to help John, were you ever told where the defendant dropped John off?
No.
Were you ever told where he was left?
No.
Was it ever suggested that he went into 34 Fairview?
No.
Was it ever suggested that he went into any house whatsoever that morning?
No.
Were you ever asked to go into the house to look for him?
No.
When you were being interviewed by law enforcement, did you ever refuse to be interviewed?
No.
Were the interviews all the same or different?
They were all different. They were all different.
Were you ever asked to give a complete review in detail of everything that you knew?
I was just asked to tell me the story of what happened that morning.
And at some point when you were interviewed, you were asked about the phone calls that the defendant made to you that morning at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
When you received those phone calls, Jennifer McCabe was not on the line, was she?
No.
Was she a party to the calls?
No.
Did she influence your memory in any way about the words that the defendant spoke to you that morning?
Objection.
I'll allow that.
No.
Do you have a clear memory of what the defendant said to you on the morning of January 29th, 2022 at around 5 in the morning when she first called you?
Yes.
Is it your independent memory?
I'm saying.
Is it
sorry.
your independent memory?
Yes.
How well do you remember it?
Objection.
Sustained.
Tell us what you remember her saying to you.
Objection.
I'll allow it.
When she first called, she said, John's dead, Kerry, and hung up.
And she called you back.
She called back.
When she called back, was there any other party on the line other than you and her?
No.
What do you remember the second time that she called you?
Yes. She said, John, I think he got hit by a plow. He did not come home last night. He would never not have come home. I wasn't supposed to stay in Canton, and Kaylee was here. He would never leave Kaylee by herself.
Did anybody ever ask you to lie
No,
or exaggerate?
no.
Would you?
Say that?
Would you?
No.
Sustained.
There's a
You
pond.
were asked whether or not you told
Canton
people on
pond.
January 29th
On Capoeg Pond.
about the missing pieces to the defendant's taillight. And you began to say you didn't tell anybody that morning.
I didn't think it had anything to do with John. I didn't want to point fingers at anybody
Why not?
because I had no idea what had happened to him. I wasn't going to point fingers at his girlfriend.
Was it, in fact, broken with missing pieces that morning?
Yes.
You saw the ring video of you and Miss McCabe and the defendant going into John's house?
Yes.
Had you seen that video before today?
Yes.
Had you been shown it before in
Yes.
other proceedings?
Yes.
When you went into the house with Miss McCabe and the defendant, did you do anything before you went into the house, actually in the house?
When
we
took off our shoes
You took off your shoes?
Jen and I both took off our boots
Why did you take off your boots?
because you had to take off your shoes to go into John's house.
Well, you say you had to. Explain to us a little bit of the background on that.
John was a neat freak. You were not allowed to wear shoes in the house.
Had you ever worn shoes in his house?
Oh,
Had you ever seen anybody wear shoes in his house?
no.
You and
They
Miss
do
McCabe?
now.
Oh.
They do now.
Oh.
You and Miss McCabe
That's
took your shoes off?
disrespectful.
Yes.
Did the defendant take her shoes off?
She did not
How do you remember that?
because Jen and I were standing there for about a good 2 minutes trying to get our boots off, and she had already gone in the house.
And
Do you know why you were called that morning?
No.
Did you volunteer to be part of this
Yes.
after the call?
Yes.
You had said you thought that you looked at the taillight before you went into John's house.
Yes.
Do you remember actually seeing the tail light that morning?
I do.
Was it simply cracked?
No.
Do you know that the portion of the ring video from when you came out of the house with the defendant, Miss McCabe, do you know that that portion is missing?
Sustained.
Have you ever seen any ring video depicting when the defendant was showing you her missing pieces of taillight that morning?
No.
Despite no video, are you certain that you saw it?
Say it again.
Are you certain that you looked at it with the defendant that morning in that driveway?
Sustained.
I'd like to play clip 3, please.
Okay.
this is getting tedious.
Yep.
Okay.
Oh, Lord. And let's just liven it up with a side boss. Woo. Up, up, up.
Quiet, folks. Still on the record.
All right, Jimmy. Yes, I was looking up a map of Canton and Boston and where everything was and the location of, Braintree and Dighton and Yes, they have a lake called Little Lake. They have a play pit lake. They have a poker ping pong lake.
Oh, come on. You know you were looking desperately hoping to find that they had a lake called Not So Little Lake.
Do you know what?
Yes, now.
Hang on, pause it. I'll forget to tell you this. I live near the Dandenong Ranges in Melbourne, and they have it's a beautiful view when you go up there. They have like Devonshire teas and all this sort of stuff. And up the very top, they have a great pub called the Flock. Yeah, it's like a real English pub, like it's the Fox and Hound or something like that. And I had to pick up my daughter from a friend of hers place up there that way, and we're driving along, and there was a road sign, and I'm like, so I'm laughing, and my other daughter said, "What are you laughing at, Mum?" I said, "The name of that road. Did you see it?" And she said, "No." "What was it called?" I said, "Up Along Road." She's like, "And?" I'm like, "Where do you live?" "Up Along Road." Yeah. Whereabouts? "Yeah, Up Along Road." Okay. Maybe it's just my sense of humor.
No, it's funny.
And it's like my Wi-Fi password. What would you expect when someone says, "What's your Wi-Fi password?"
Wi-Fi.
Nope, none of your fucking business.
You would not believe, though, the amount of people that have it as things like either Wi-Fi or password.
Yeah. No, it's none of your fucking business. And then they go, "Oh, okay. No, it's really none of your fucking business." That's my password.
All right, go ahead, Mr. Brennan.
When you first got to John and you were trying to save him that morning, do you have a distinct memory of it?
Yes.
Counsel had asked you if it was your story. Was this a story?
Say it again.
Was it a story that you told?
A story?
Yes.
It's what happened.
Do you wish it was just a story?
Sustained.
I have no further questions.
Okay, so recross.
Just asked. Just a few minutes ago.
A few minutes ago.
Did you ever say that you actually heard that statement about that Google search? And you said no.
Correct.
The question that was posed to you by Mr. Lally
Lally.
was, what, if anything, did she, Miss Reed, ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard?
Right.
Correct?
I misunderstood the question.
And you misunderstood that question?
Yes.
What
I
did you
did.
misunderstand about that question?
I didn't know it was that you heard, so I was explaining what happened in the back of the car.
I see. So you just ignored the part, literally, the part of the question where he said, what did you hear her say? That's what your testimony is now?
Heard, and I didn't hear it. I obviously got the question wrong because I did not hear anybody ask about a Google search.
Well, I know that's what you're saying now. I get that. But when you were asked, what, if anything, did she ask Miss McCabe while they were sitting in the back of the cruiser that you heard, your immediate answer was, at one point, she asked her to Google hypothermia and how long dash Google hypothermia, end quote. Correct?
Correct.
That was your answer.
Yes.
Correct?
To a question I misunderstood.
And that was a false statement, wasn't it?
Technically.
Technically?
Yes,
Being a
technically.
little bit pregnant, Ms. Roberts.
Okay, so remember, jurors, I said earlier, comments of counsel are not evidence and you're to disregard them. Ask a question.
Thank you, Your Honor. What do you mean technically?
Technically, I was under oath and I did not hear Karen asked Jen to Google it.
And yet under oath.
But I knew it happened at that
And
time.
yet under oath you said you did.
Correct.
And that was a lie, correct?
Objection.
Was that a lie? Did you lie?
I did not intentionally.
but you did.
And,
Not intentionally.
okay, that's the end of
Understood
this.
the question, Mr. Jackson.
All right, is there any other question or is that it?
I didn't know what you just said.
I said I misunderstood the question, Mr. Jackson.
You're saying that, correct?
That's what happened.
All right,
Can I ask one more question?
okay.
In that quote, you said, at one point she asked her to Google hypothermia and how long. Then you corrected yourself and finished with Google hypothermia. What did you mean by how long? What were you about to say?
I don't recall.
Had someone told you something about a phrase that started with how long?
I don't recall.
Hypothermia?
I don't recall.
Like, for instance, how
How long
to
to
die
die?
of cold?
I don't recall.
Okay. All right, Ms. McKay, I'm sorry, Ms. Roberts, you were upset.
Thank you.
That was naughty. That was very cheeky. Funny.
May I?
Yes.
Oh, no.
I'd like to play clip 3.
Oh, no. Here we go.
Your Honor, before this is played, is it possible to take a quick break so we can review this? There's a lot of clips. I'm not sure what this is. I'd like to see it before it's played.
All right, how long a clip is this?
Probably about 10 seconds,
Ah.
15 seconds.
Um,